Hello, fictional. Welcome to the What If Essay. Today we are gonna see, what if Issei fall in love with Mavis? Part 1. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Zeref was considered to be many things. Evil, misunderstood, cursed, but he was never considered to be loved by anyone. That was what he thought, that is, until he met Mavis Vermilion. She loved him and he loved her, even after he killed her, he loved her, and she still loved him. That was before he went to war with her guild, and now that war is over. His forces have been defeated, and Zeref was now on his deathbed in the arms of a crying Mavis. Why did you have to start all of this?" she choked out in between sobs. Zeref said nothing, and not because he didn't want to, he just didn't have the strength left to speak. He deserves all of this, after everything he has done, after everyone he has killed, and every death that he has caused. Urza harshly spoke out as everyone nodded in agreement, even Zeref's own brother Natsu. "That doesn't mean he has to die for his insanity," Mavis's broken voice called out. "Because of him and this war, I was forced to kill when he first master, and I will not let him live and be able to kill again," Urza yelled as she was getting closer to the two living corpses. When Mavis sensed someone behind her, she quickly took a defensive position over Zeref's barely conscious form. "He is already dying, you don't need to kill him, just let him die in peace," she begged them. "No, first, because of him, too many people had to die, and we will not let him be at peace, not now, not ever," Natsu declared as he ready to fire coated claw and Urza ready to sword. Gray was coating his hand with ice and Juvia was coating hers in water. Everyone with powerful offensive magic was readying their magic to kill the black mage once and for all, however none of them knew that Mavis was readying her own magic to use the unlimited magic supply within her body to cast a forbidden spell. "I won't let you touch him, what happened to the fairy tale that I founded, what happened to," Mavis began before Lucy interrupted her. "They had to watch as this monster killed friends and caused loved ones to kill each other. How can you still defend this monster after everything that he has done?" That caused Mavis to stop and think for a minute, why was she still defending the person who caused so much death? Why can't she not defend him, and why was she readying a spell she knew shouldn't be used for someone who should be unredeemable? She thought and thought until she came to one solution, just as Zeref was beginning to fade and her magic was ready, "I love him." Just as she said those three words, her magic exploded as she cast her spell calling out, "Fairy Heart." Reincarnation of the two lovers. In a blinding light of pure white, both Mavis Vermilion and Zeref vanished from Earthland that day and were reincarnated in two different bodies in another universe. The XD universe, 17 years later. Issei Hyoudou was your average 17-year-old boy, he has brown hair and brown eyes. Issei is an open pervert who frequently boasted about being the harem king. His average day starts with his alarm clock taking the form of various harem girls, telling him to wake up, eats breakfast with his family to tell him he is a slacker, and then goes to school to only look at the female population. Hyoudou Academy only recently let male students in its female-only campus, so the ratio of student gender population was in favor of the girls. This was the only reason that Issei and his two friends, Mitsuda and Motohama, came to what was supposed to be a prestigious academy. This day was going to be a different one however, because today is the day that a girl named Yuma Amano asks him out. Yuma had long black hair and kind, violet eyes. She wore a uniform to another no-name school and just came up to him and asked him out on a date for Saturday. When Saturday came around, Issei acted like a perfect gentleman and the date seemed to go so well that they decided to cut through a romantic water fountain around sunset to finish up their little date. Everything was going good until Yuma started to act strangely and ask if she could ask him something out of the blue. When he answered yes, he thought he would be asked for something perverted, but instead when she leaned into his ear she said, "Would you die for me?" Issei thought that he heard her wrong, so he tried to clean gunk out of his ear and asked, "I'm sorry, what was that?" Yuma lost all of the kindness that was in her eyes and asked in a more womanlike and lusty voice, "Would you die for me?" Suddenly she grew taller and her outfit disappeared and for a brief moment he could see the boobs that he wanted so much. When she finally had clothes on again, she wore the bare minimum with black being her only color of choice. Before Issei could react, Yuma had forged a spear made of red light and plunged it into his stomach. As he was about to touch it, it disappeared and allowed blood to spray out of his stomach. As he was lying there waiting to die, Yuma was saying something about a sacred gear and told him to blame God for it. She disappeared in the sky leaving only black feathers in her wake. Just he was about to die, a red magic circle appeared and out stepped a figure with red hair and green eyes. The figure stepped out and Issei could see that it was a female, but that was all he could see as he died after he finally noticed this. If he lived for a few more seconds, he would have seen Ria's Gremory come over to him and say, "Fear not, I shall give you a new life. The life that is filled with adventure and immortality, the life of a devil." Ria's took out all of her remaining pieces and tried each one. The knight did nothing, as did a rook and bishop. When she came to her pawns she gathered them all up and found that only one of them were glowing, signifying that that piece is the only piece for him. The pawn's piece sunk into his chest, and what happened next was unbelievable, even for her. Issei Hyoudu's body started to rise and glow, his hair became black and shorter, hanging closer to his head. His eyes shot open in shock and she could see his brown eyes turning into black ones. His body became more defined and she could already see muscles form on his arms. Riaz didn't know it, but when Issei finished his transformation, he was no longer Issei the idiot pervert who dreamed of being a harem king. He was Zeref Dragneel, black mage and creator of demons. When she saw his transformation complete, she had only one thought: what in the hell have I done? Hyoudou residence the next morning. When Zeref woke up, he didn't think he would wake up in a bedroom, he thought he would be in hell. For a moment the last thing he remembered was dying in Mavis's arms, then he remembered everything. What he had done these last 17 years, and his crappy reason for it as well. He immediately became red with rage until he remembered he was killed. Why would he be alive if he was dead? This made no sense. As Zeref got dressed he noticed a smell, due to his memories of Issei, a smell of bacon and eggs. It had taken some time more before he realized that his body was lighter than what it should have been, and he had his magic power to the point it was before he died on Earthland. Zeref decided that he will study on more on this later, but for now he shall go to school and apologize to all that have put up with his perverted antics. Only one question remained: does he have to disguise himself as Issei with an illusion, or did whatever force that brought him back make it so everyone thought that Issei looked like Zeref? Since it wouldn't take long to prepare a spell or even cast it, Zeref decided to walk through the halls of his home and look at the pictures, just in case the entity that revived him changed the pictures as well. As luck would have it, they didn't change the pictures, so he was able to surmise that they didn't change the memory of his mom and dad. Just to make sure, before he entered the kitchen he decided to ask, "Mom, Dad, what color is my hair?" His mom was the one to answer, "Brown dear, why did you dye it?" Casting a quick illusion over himself, Zeref made himself look like Issei again, and oh how he hated it. "No, I was just checking your memory," Issei said as he walked into the kitchen to get some breakfast. "What an odd thing to do, I am not that old," his mother said with a huge hint of bitterness. Issei just smiled and began to eat his breakfast with his mom yelling at him about implying she was old. Perhaps it would be fun to stay like this to mess with people, and besides I haven't had a good laugh since I was a child, Zeref's inner thought said. After finishing breakfast, Issei quickly changed into his school uniform and decided to wear the full uniform today. On his way to school, Issei decided to check and see if his immortality was still in play, since the rest of his magic is. Finding a broken bottle in an alleyway, he took off his jacket and proceeded to cut the veins on his wrist. To his surprise, the cut healed as though it were never there to begin with, and that caused him to frown. For his immortality meant that he would have to begin his research all over again for a way to kill an immortal. Last time it took someone of his own blood turned into a demon to kill him, this time he had nothing to work with. Zeref now went to school with a frown on his face because of this fact and the fact that he was still considered to be the school's pervert. Oh how he hated this little bit of fact, that is until his plan comes together and then he will just be a normal high school student. The day was actually going good, he made a list of all the clubs he had to apologize to, the individual students and the student council. He was sure to only keep this a mental list as not to make any confusion if someone found an actual list of girls and found out that a pervert had written it. Issei, hey wait up man, where are you going? His thoughts were interrupted by one of his now former friends, Motohama. Looking back, Zeref saw that he was, of course, with Mitsuda and decided that he might as well get this over with. I am actually wanting to talk to you guys about something and promise me that there won't be any hard feelings when I do, Issei almost happily said. Dude, the tone of voice is contradictory of what you are saying, what did you get a girlfriend or something, Mitsuda said. So, whoever revived me must have erased that Yuma girl from their memories as well, or it was Yuma herself, no point in bringing that up then. I actually have decided that I no longer want to be a useless pervert like the both of you. In fact, I have decided to call off and form a friendship we ever had until you two stop being perverts as well, Issei told them. Seeing their faces almost wanted him to laugh when he saw their bug eyes and slack jaws, this is difficult to do with a straight face. You don't mean that, what about boobs, what about touching them and squeezing them, Motohama said. I just decided that I want more out of life than what the life of a worthless pervert could ever give me, and as Issei said this, gasps could be heard all around them. All of the students that had not yet entered the building had heard what he just said, and according to Zeref's plan, his name should be out of the pit of perverts by the time he headed home. With everything said that Zeref had to say, he turned around and headed into the school and made his way towards his first class of the day. What a boring class that was, he had already learned everything in every subject including maths and sciences. His only trouble subject was history. It was quite different from what he knew, so he actually had to pay attention in that class. In between classes and during lunch, Zeref spent his time apologizing to the clubs and people that he had peeped on and made uncomfortable. The only trouble that he had was with the kendo club, and that was only because Issei had peeped on them more than any other club. The only way around this was to face off against her in a duel for his honor, according to the kendo club president. When Zeref nodded, he saw everyone smirk as though they had won already. Big mistake. They expected Issei Hyoudou to fight them, they didn't expect a 4-century-old immortal to fight them. The match was over in a matter of seconds with Zeref winning. Before he left, he apologized to them once again, just to get the point across. The last group was the student council, and he was hesitant to go to that room. With his magic back, he was able to sense the dark magic pump through the school, and that meant that he could sense who it belonged to. Taking a deep breath, Zeref walked into the office of Sona Shitori, the student council president. "Madam President, may I please speak with you for a moment?" Issei asked politely. Hearing a hum of approval, Zeref took notice of both the president and the vice president in the office. Looking up, Sona smiled at him, which creeped him out given her energy, and said, "Ah, Mr. Hyoudou, I heard that you were going around and apologizing to everyone you peeped on." "Yes, I am, ma'am. Now it is just you and the rest of female members of the council that I have yet to apologize to," Issei said politely as well. "Wait, that is why you are here, you actually spied on us," Sona blurted out in shock. "Yes, I have, and I would like to formally apologize for my actions and ask for your forgiveness," Issei said with a bow. Sona thought for a moment. She was suspicious at first, but who would openly admit to peeping and then ask for forgiveness if they weren't changed? It could be some kind of trick for everyone to let their guard down, but then she didn't sense any lie in his words. In fact, what is more suspicious is the fact that she doesn't sense anything from him. In the past, she sensed his potential, the same way that Riaz did, but now she senses nothing from him, like he doesn't exist. "I will forgive you, but only if you agree to be watched from the time you come to school to the time you leave," Sona bargained. If he was faking, and that if is growing larger by the second, then if he agreed to it he would be in the clear. "I happily accept your terms, and I ask that you make my caretaker someone who pays attention to detail, so that they can see that you have nothing to worry about," Issei asked. This greatly surprised Sona, 1 because he accepted and she halfway expected him to refuse, and 2 because he asked for someone who takes detailed accounts. That was what threw her for a loop, but 2 can play at that game. "Fine, your caretaker will be the vice president, Tsubaki. Will that be a problem?" "No ma'am, that will be fine." "Does that start now or do we wait for that?" Issei asked. "No, this will start tomorrow, so don't be late," Sona advised. Nodding once, Zeref turned to leave before stopping at the door and looking over his shoulder to say, "You can decide if you wish to tell me about that magic you are trying to hide or not." With that, he left with 2 astonished-looking devils in his wake. Zeref was done with school for today and decided to stop by the park, visit the site where he died, to see if he can pick up any stray magics. He didn't, however, expect to sense a non-human presence at the other end of the park. "So, a lowly stray devil comes for me to kill it, how wonderful," a figure in a trench coat and a fedora said. "So I am classified as a devil now, am I? Interesting," Zeref thought. "I am sorry, but I am not a stray, I am just wandering town on my own to clear my thoughts." "Really? Whose peerage are you in, you stray devil?" the figure said. "I would prefer not to tell you that, so if you would excuse me, I must be going," Issei said in a very polite manner. Before he could get far, however, the same type of energy that killed Issei pierced his stomach again, and again it disappeared in the same way. "You really think I would let a stray like you leave? What would I tell the rest of the fallen angels?" the figure stated. "So, Yuma was something known as a fallen angels, was she? Just my luck," Zeref thought before the unfamiliar energy he was hit with made him pass out from blood loss. If he stayed conscious a few more seconds, he would have seen Ria's Gremory enter into the free Hyoudou residence the next morning. When Zeref woke up, the first thing he noticed was that the weight of the bed was shifted differently from how it was supposed to be. The next thing is that he was naked, which was not acceptable at all. Uncovering the figure in front of him revealed it to be Ria's Gremory in all her naked glory. Zeref calmly got out of bed and went to get dressed for school. Being used to the weird, he didn't really find this kind of thing abnormal in the grand scheme of things. "I would have thought that the great Issei would panic when he saw me in his bed naked," he heard the voice of Riaz say from the bed. "I am not the Issei that you once may have known about, but I imagine that you will explain to me why you are in my bed naked eventually, so I see no reason to dwell on it. I do have one request though, would you mind putting some clothes on?" Zeref asked as he had just finished getting ready himself. "Fine," Riaz said as she got up to put her clothes on. "To explain why I was naked, I have to first ask if you remember what all happened to you in these last few days." Seeing him nod, she continued, "Last night I healed you through my own body, and the best way to do that is to be naked. "With me so far?" she asked, to which he nodded. "Good, and the reason why we woke up like that is because after healing you, I didn't feel like teleporting, so I spent the night." "Let me guess, you also can't sleep comfortably unless you are nude and you have something to cuddle?" Zeref asked. "You catch on faster than what I thought Issei," Riaz commented. "Then you only call me that when we are at school or in front of my parents. When we are in private like this you can call me Zeref," he said. "Is that what you want your nickname to be? Because it isn't really that good," she commented again. "I was reincarnated as Issei Hyoudou, but since you revived me as a devil, my full power and memories as Zeref Dragneel have returned," Zeref dryly said. "Wait, you are a reincarnation? That never happens. What makes you so special to be able to go against the laws of nature?" Riaz asked. "Can we talk about this with the rest of your group instead of just explaining this twice?" he asked a little bit irritatedly. "Fine, I will send someone for you after school today." "Alright," she asked, and with a nod, Zeref masked himself as Issei and left for school with Riaz Gremory by his side. When Zeref and Riaz got to the school, Riaz went to her class while Zeref met up with Tsubaki. He found her in the student council room and from there they went to Issei's classes. After the class Zeref went to the next with Tsubaki in tow and to everyone's shocked looks that she was walking with the school's former pervert. After the final class had ended, Zeref heard a commotion from the doorway of the classroom. There in the doorway was the Prince of Kuo, Hyoudou, and he was walking over to Issei. "Hello, I am here to pick you up for President Riaz," he calmly said. "Fine, lead the way," Issei said as he got up to leave and leaving a group of girls to yell and warn Kiba of Issei's old pertness. Tsubaki followed until they got to the old school building and waited outside until her charge left the campus as instructed. Zeref cancelled his illusion as he made his way down the hall with Kiba. As he entered he noticed two things. The first was the style of the room was what he expected to see of nobility. It had class, but didn't scream "we are better than you," but it did scream "we are creatures of the night with class." The second thing he noticed was a girl he remembered whose name was Kaneko Taoju sitting on one of the two couches eating chocolate. Zeref then heard running water and looking to his left he saw a shower being used. He found it strange that they would have a shower in the club room itself and not in a separate room, but who was he to judge? He calmly waited and took a seat on the couch opposite of Kaneko and closed his eyes and thought. "Obviously they are devils, and that must mean that I am one as well, but that does not explain to me why the black-headed one in the corner is eyeing me like I am a piece of meat." Zeref's thoughts were interrupted when Riaz finally got out of the shower. "Sorry, I didn't have time to shower this morning and needed to freshen up a bit." "It is fine, but I do believe we have business to discuss," Zeref calmly said without missing a beat. "Yes we do," she said as she sat on her desk. "I do believe that you were going to tell us about how you were reincarnated into Issei instead of normal death." "I do not know for certain, but I believe it has something to do with my previous curse," he said, earning him puzzled looks from everyone. "In my world, Earthland, there is a curse of contradiction where the more you love life, the more you are forced to take it away with uncontrollable power. This also gives the person immortality where even if you were beheaded you would never die." Riaz rose her eyebrow and thought, how would that translate to you being reincarnated here? "Let me finish, I am here, I guess, because when I finally engineered my death there, an unknown side effect of the curse was that you are reincarnated on Earth. That is about the extent of how I came to be here," Zeref explained. She finally caught on to what he was saying, "And now that I have reincarnated you as a devil, you have all your memories and powers back from when you were still in your world." "Yes, that does appear to be the case here. Now would you mind giving me background on what it is us devils do?" he asked. "Simply put, we form contracts with humans in order to grow in power. We exchange our service for money or a valuable item, but we don't take their souls," Riaz answered. "I heard that fallen angel talk about a peerage. Am I to assume this means that we are your servants of some kind or another?" Zeref asked. "Yes, a peerage is formed from evil pieces, and those pieces are formed from the pieces in chess," Riaz again answered. "I am to assume you are the king then," Adernati continued. "Am I to assume that you have a knight, a rook, a queen, and a bishop as well?" She nodded again and he asked, "What am I?" "That was what was strange, when I sensed your potential you were at least 8 pawns, but only one was used," she said with disappointment. "Am I to assume then that these pieces sense a person's potential and determine what is needed?" Zeref asked. She nodded but remained silent for him to continue, but she didn't expect him to start chuckling. When he was done he said, "You missed the obvious, Riaz. I am not worth 1 pawn because I lack in power, but because I have already reached my full potential. That is one theory, and the other is that you are too weak to have any other piece," Riaz teased but got no outward reaction. "The guy is like a brick wall. I hate it when I can't get a reaction from my teasing," she thought. "I can assure you that I am more than powerful enough to kill all of you in one wave of my hand, however I don't feel like being on the run from the other devils," he said. "I like your sense of humor, but let's get back on track," she said nervously. For starters, I need you to deliver these flyers out and then you can come back and we will go from there. Usually we have our familiars do it, but this is a good way to get your feet wet, she said as she summoned a stack of flyers with magic circles on them. Zeref said nothing as he formed his own magic circle, and out came dozens of little brown creatures with wicked smiles on their faces. Go and hand these flyers out as quick as you can, then get something to eat, Zeref ordered as he kept sitting on the couch drinking tea that Argento brought him. The rest of the peerage were shocked that he just summoned his own familiars to do his work. Am I to assume those were creatures from your world, Zeref? Argento said, speaking up for the first time. Yes and no, those creatures are from my world, but they are creatures that I made known as Etherius. The funny thing is that my Etherius creations were known as demons in my world, he said with a slight chuckle. You made your own demons, everyone except for Kaneko shouted in disbelief. Yes I did, but as I said they are technically called Etherius and not demons, Zeref corrected. Cool, Kaneko said in her usual stoic voice. Can you show us any of them? Riaz asked him. Zeref pulled a book from his requip space and brought the book to life with a glow of magic. Once the glow died down, Kayaka came into view. Everyone, this is Kayaka, an Etherius made for torturing others, Zeref said as everyone looked to Argento as well. Lord Zeref, where am I and what is going on? Kayaka asked as she looked around and saw the rest of the Gremory peerage looking at her. Kayaka, I brought you here because they wanted to see an Etherius, and I wanted to see the looks on their faces, he said with a small smile. I hear you like to torture. Kayaka turned around and saw a girl with raven hair look at her with a smile Kayaka just loved to see. Yes I am, and by that smile and look in your eyes, am I to assume you do as well? When she nodded, one thought raced through Kayaka and Akenno's minds at the same time. I think I found a new friend, torture buddy. All of a sudden there was a light that engulfed Kayaka and she was turned back into a book and sent to Zeref's requip space. Argento was left pouting that she didn't get more time with her, while everyone else was freaking out that there was another Argento out there. Just as everyone was getting comfortable, the tiny Etherius that Zeref sent out returned. Good, now Kaneko was double booked so we need you to take one of her requests, Riaz told Zeref. He nodded and moved to where Argento was preparing a magic circle for him to transport through. This is the Gremory magic circle, this should let you teleport to the client when it's completed. He nodded and stepped inside the circle for him to teleport to this client, he put forth his own magic just to be on the safe side. When the light engulfed him, he appeared in a room with the supposed client. Who are you, and where is little Kaneko? The man asked Zeref. Kaneko was double booked so I am your devil today, he said with a respectful bow. Well, do some devil tricks or something, the man ordered. Zeref stood there and lifted his right hand and made a black orb appear in the palm of it. It didn't look like much, but it was quite easily a very deadly weapon for him. He sent it flying into the floor where his went through his and didn't stop until it was several miles in the earth. Now that was some awesome devil trick. Hey, do you watch Dragon Ball Z? They asked in excitement. Something from that lowlife's life was worth something after all, Zeref thought as he nodded and began to discuss the show and manga. It was a quiet night, so Zeref thought he would take a stroll for a little while to get to the club room. As he was walking he found his way blocked by a woman with black wings, a fallen angel. I don't know how you are alive, but this is getting annoying, she said as she formed a spear of light and threw it at Zeref. He nearly caught the spear and made the thing disappear by crushing it. How did you do that? You are just a newborn devil, the fallen angel asked in disbelief. Zeref just moved faster than her eyes could see and appeared behind her as he shot a straight line of death through her entire torso. Leaving the dead fallen angel behind, he proceeded to walk his way towards the clubhouse. When he arrived he was met with everyone sitting minding their own business. You're back, how did it go? Riaz asked with a smile. It went well, he wanted someone to discuss his like for a show, and after we formed a pact, Zeref answered with a blank expression. You don't seem happy about that, Kiba commented. I am just getting annoyed with all the fallen angel attacks, he said in an annoyed tone. Wait, did something happen? Riaz asked concerned. Well, one did try to attack me on the way here, but I killed her before she could blink, not really as strong as what they thought they were, he commented boredly. You just killed a fallen angel and the fact that she was weaker than you is what you first think, Kiba commented dryly. Yes, and if you are worried over if someone discovers that she is dead, don't be. With my powers, her body is bound to be decayed and turned into compost by now, Zeref commented still boredly. That is not what I am thinking right now, I am thinking that you could have gotten hurt, the fallen angel's spears of light are harmful to us devils. We can't even touch one without it burning us, Riaz said with concern. I already did, was all he said in reply, and at her wide eyes he continued. I already touched one, and without it burning me, I crushed it in my hands. Now Riaz was turning into a blubbering mess, but when I saved you from that fallen angel yesterday, you were seriously injured. My body was going through a 24-hour adjustment period to get used to the new world, Zeref said as though it was obvious. I really need to know all of your powers if I don't want to be surprised, Ria said out of annoyance. Yes you do, he said, but made no motion to continue to tell them of his powers. Well, are you going to tell us all of your powers or not, she asked getting more annoyed. Zeref just got up to leave before saying, now where would be the fun in that, I will take my leave to get a good night's sleep. With that said he left a very annoyed Riaz and her peerage, trying to calm her down. The next morning we see Issei walking to school when he heard someone fall. Looking over to where he heard the commotion, he saw a girl with blonde hair in what looked to be a nun outfit. Zeref thought for a moment and decided to help the nun out, it would after all lead him to the nun owing him a favor. Walking over to the downed nun he reached out his hand saying, excuse me miss, do you need any help? The nun looked up and graciously took his hand and accepted his help. Yes, thank you for the assistance, she said as she was helped up. The wind blew and her head covering blew off her head and the wind blew in her hair. The old Issei would have perved out about this, but the only look that this Issei had on his face was impassive. Zeref walked on off and got the headdress from the ground and gave it back to her. She developed a blush on her face from embarrassment and asked him, I am lost, would you be able to help me? He nodded and asked her, where are you trying to find and I will take you there. I was headed to the church, I was recently assigned here, the nun stated shyly. The only church I know of is the old abandoned church on top of the hill, Issei stated as he led the nun to the church. All the while he had this strange feeling that Zeref himself hadn't felt in ages. I think I am feeling a survival instinct, I honestly never thought I would be having one of those ever again he thought as Issei, and the nun talked about various things. Soon they heard crying, and so the nun went over and began to heal a boy's scraped knee with a glowing bright green light. Soon Issei's left hand had a sudden pain and then the pain just stopped. Not seeing this as the time to baptize his hand, he kept leading her to the church and said, that is an interesting power you have at your disposal. Yes, I consider it a gift from God, she said. Truly it is, she said again with a sad look on her face that hid true pain and loneliness. Not really caring one way or the other about a stranger, Zeref decided to drop the subject and noticed the church in the distance. There is the church over there, he said as he pointed in the distance to a building with a pointed tower. Thank you for helping me, I would like to thank you properly with a cup of tea or something, so would you like to come inside with me, she asked. I would like to but I don't think I should, I still need to get to school before it gets too late in the day, Issei said with a bow. Well, it was still nice of you to help me, my name is Asia Argento, the now named Asia introduced. My name is Issei Hyoudou, and it was a pleasure to meet you as well, bye now, Issei said as he turned and left to go to school. The Cult Research Club building. You should never go near the church again Zeref, Ria said after he just explained why he was late. She was leaning against a stained glass window in the building between levels. Technically I didn't go near the church this time around, only pointed it out in the distance, but do not worry, I highly doubt a situation would arise that would have me go there. Zeref smartly stated as he was leaning against the railing with his arms crossed and eyes closed. Well you must have still been able to feel your devil survival instincts kick in, so that means you were too close, she pointed out smartly herself. I did feel that, but I also felt no significant power coming from there, so I didn't feel that much of a threat, he retorted with confidence. I did however feel her power when she used a sacred gear, a healing ability would be quite useful if used the right way, he stated to his king. With that he left and went to collect the schoolwork he missed out on while he was late. He had just finished doing his homework for the day in the clubroom while everyone else was out. He felt a presence behind him and knew who was there. If you wish to sneak up on someone Miss Himajima, I would suggest you suppress your devil energy better than that, Zeref stated as he had just finished putting his papers away. Now Akeno actually face-faulted at being found out so quickly but recovered because she thought she knew what he was thinking, she isn't mad at you silly boy, she is just worried. Zeref just looked back with a blank expression on his face saying, that isn't my concern at the moment. At the moment my concern is if she will act on the information that I have given her in regards to a stronger team. Just then Riaz entered, I thought you would have gone home by now, she said. The Archduke called, Akeno said as she stood up and looked back at Riaz. The Archduke, she questioned. The stray devil has been causing trouble nearby and he would like us to take care of it, she said. At night at an old house. A group of devils have just appeared from a magic circle and were making their way inside of the house to confront the stray devil. Zeref, you know that you are a pawn correct, Riaz asked as they entered the house. Yes, I also know that you are the king and the queen is Akeno, if what the school files indicate with her being the vice president of the club, he answered. You broke into the school files, she asked, and he nodded as though it was trivial. We will circle back around to that later, for now know that each piece has their own skill set similar to an actual chess piece. Watch the fight between us and the stray and I will show you why each one is what they are. Riaz stated as the fight between the stray devil and the Gremory devils were underway. The fight was not interesting to Zeref, so as Riaz was talking and explaining what each of the pieces were and who they were, he was looking around the house if there were any interesting books for him to find and read. He then noticed a stray detached part was coming to take the head of the king, so he simply used what many call a death sphere to destroy the severed body part. "Thank you for that," she thanked him, only now noticing that he hadn't listened to anything he said and was looking through a bookshelf for a good book to read. "Were you listening to anything that I just said to you?" Riaz yelled at him. The stray devil noticed his not interested poster and chose to attack him with lasers from her boobs. Zeref was not impressed with this, so he just walked past the attacks while dodging with minimal effort and got close to the stray. "The rest of you should get back from this position," he stated to the others, who instantly retreated back to Riaz, who was standing there with her eyebrows raised. "I am bored with you now, vile creature," he said as he raised his hands and brought his wrists together with his right index and middle finger pointed up and his left index and pinky pointed down. "Repent and be dragged to oblivion," Zeref said as a huge pillar made of darkness and death was brought forth and destroyed the creature where it stood. "That was very good, I just wish we could punish her some more," Akeno said with her full sadism and show. He just walked past them and grabbed a book out of some rubble that looked like it would be good. The way she was firing those lasers means it would hit a book that might have been interesting to read. With that said, he just walked right out of the house and went to the front yard for the teleportation circle. "Tomorrow I would like for you to take another double booking off of Kaneko's hands until you get your own," Riaz asked as she was walking out and stepped into the magic circle. Zeref just nodded and thought, "These devils are tougher than what they seem. I had to add a little more power behind my death pillar than what I usually do." Later in a random house. The scene that awaited Zeref as he stepped out of the magic circle was, in a word, horrid. The floor was riddled with blood and all kinds of body parts lay around him as he stood in the middle of a massacre. However, this was not something that he himself had not done or seen in his 400 plus years as an immortal black wizard. The scene was still not what he liked to come across, no matter how often he saw it occur. "Punish the wicked, yes, wise advice to heed from a holy man." He looked over and saw a young man with white hair and a wicked grin on his face with his tongue out sitting on a couch. "I assume you are the one who did this sloppily done massacre," Zeref said as he walked and stood behind the other couch. The white-haired man stared at him for a second before yelling, "This was not sloppily done, you shitty devil." "Sure, it was rushed but not sloppy." "And people say my brother is loud," Zeref muttered to himself as he was cleaning out his ear of earwax. The in front of him stood up and bowed, saying, "Bad luck for you, young man, Fried Selzen at your service." "At my service is it? Then please clean this mess up before you turn yourself into the proper authorities," he said as he began to leave. Before he made it to the door, he found a bullet lodged in his arm. Not even flinching from the pain, he turned around to see a furious Fried. "I will not be mocked by some shitty devil when I am supposed to be the one to kill them," he yelled as he rushed to chop off his head. To his surprise, the only thing he found was a sword of a black material blocking him. "I do hope you put up more of a challenge than the stray devil did," Zeref commented as he pushed back with his death sword. Fried tried to strike and lunge at him, but all Zeref did was do simple parries and blocks to counteract Fried's erratic movements. They both stopped when they heard a loud shriek. They both turned to see the nun that Zeref had met, Asia, looking horrified at the sight in front of her. He knew what that look meant. At the beginning of his life, he saw it in the mirror countless times. Horror and shock at the scene in front of her, but he also knew he could use the distraction. Fried saw that she was horrified also and chose that moment to give a lecture as to what she as a newbie is supposed to do. When she protested to this, Zeref saw that Fried started to try and rape her. "What disgusting vermin you are." Fried turned to see the devil he had been fighting until just a second ago have a different aura about him. His once black eyes had turned into crimson red ones with a look of furiousness in them. Before Fried could say anything about what he was seeing, he found a sharp pain in his right arm. Looking to see why, he found nothing there. Literally, he found his right arm missing. Looking back at the devil, found that he was holding. Before Fried could say anything else, the devil destroyed the arm before his eyes. "People like you should just disappear from the face of the earth," Zeref said as he took the other arm and done the same thing. Now Fried was furious. "What do you think you are doing, you shitty devil? You can't fucking do this to me." Zeref didn't care. He used his sword and impaled the man in the heart, saying, "I don't think you deserve to live." He turned his head towards where Asia was pinned to the wall and asked, "Did you know what you were signing up for when you came here?" "No, I swear I didn't," she stated with tears in her eyes. "And I shall let you live, but you should probably not stay here from this place," he stated as he removed the sword of light from where it held her up by her sleeves. "Thank you," she bowed before she tried to flee, only for a red magic circle to block her path. "They finally showed after I had to deal with this all by myself," Zeref commented at their late arrival. "Don't worry, Zeref, we are here and you already defeated him, didn't you?" Hyoudou said as he saw the dead exorcist. Yes, and you are late, we should go before we are found at the scene of a crime and sent to jail, he commented as the rest of the peerage came through the portal. Aw, we missed all the fun, Akeno said with a pout that really disturbed Zeref. I don't think we should have any more problems with the exorcist though, Ria said as she checked out the corpse of the stray exorcist. For once in my travels, I would like to make normal friends, Zeref commented dryly. What are we going to do with her? Hyoudou questioned looking at Asia who just looked terrified. We don't do anything, she is a servant of the fallen angels, so we can't touch unless she attacks us directly, Ria said as she made another magic circle for everyone to use. Goodbye Asia, I hope our next encounter is not one that you will regret, Zeref said as he walked into the magic circle to go to the club room, not even waiting for a response. Once though, he made his own magic circle and decided to head home and get some sleep or just break into Ria's home and steal a few books about devils and their laws. Today was Saturday and Zeref knew that he was given today off, but didn't have anything to do besides go for a walk and do anything to relieve some boredom. He decided to go out as Zeref after he left the house disguised as Issei. As he was walking along, he saw Asia walking along as well, but he didn't want to interact with her directly, so he just decided to follow her. He wasn't too keen on spying on someone, but he knew how thanks to at least some experience. She walked to different places and occasionally looked around like someone was following her, but Zeref knew that it wasn't him that she was looking for. He followed her until she reached a small pond with stone columns all around it. She sat down on a bench to rest her feet when a dark presence made itself known to her. Lady Rainer, Asia gasped out. Rainer, so that was her real name, Zeref thought as he listened in on the conversation. Don't even try to run Asia, Rainer said with a dangerous glint in her eyes for anyone but Zeref. Megan, I want no part in the evil you and the other angels are up to. I ran away for a reason, I couldn't stand to be around you anymore, Asia said out loud in a weak voice. I don't care, be a good little girl and come with me, your healing power is far more rare and valuable, infinitely more valuable to our kind than you know, she said. I do believe I have watched this little show long enough, Zeref said as he stepped out from behind a column as the other two turned towards him. Who are you supposed to be, a good devil Samaritan, Rainer joked towards the intruder. I am hurt that you don't recognize me, but guess I can't blame you for when you did kill me, I was that weak excuse for a human, he said as he literally walked on the water towards her. What do you mean, and how can you walk on the water, that was one of the miracles that Christ performed, she yelled at him. First off, I am not walking on water per se, it might take too long to give you the full version, so I will use the shortened one. I am essentially using gravity magic with so great precision that the molecules are forming a solid stand in the water. Second, my name is Zeref Dragniel, but I was once known to you by Issei Hyoudou, Zeref revealed. I killed him, and there is no way that you could be him, reincarnation was banned from this world after the Great War, Rainer yelled at him. Never said I was from this world did I, he said as he suddenly appeared behind her and grabbed her head with his right hand and threw her to crash into a pillar. When the smoke cleared, she was left with only a small bruise on her face from when she was grabbed by his hand. That was weak, she commented as she formed a spear of light to throw at him, but was not expecting him to be gone from the spot he once stood. She looked around and noticed that Asia was still there and he wouldn't have just left her without taking Rainer out. You still need to watch your back, she heard from behind her, but oddly enough, was punched in the stomach instead. That was a warning for killing, but if you wish to take the nun, be my guest, just don't come crying to me when the storm comes. With that said, the man was gone from the side of the two women in a black magic circle. Or clubroom. That is mainly what happened, so what are we going to do Riaz, Zeref said as he finished explaining what happened to his king. What do you mean, what the fallen angels do is none of our business, Riaz commented with a wave of her hand. So much of a waste of position on someone lacking in tactics he thought as he decided to just tell her. That is not what I mean what are we going to do about possibly losing a possible healer for the peerage? You want me to try and convince a nun to become a devil, that is not going to be easy, and why do you care so much, she asked with a raised eyebrow. Because, this team cannot always get necked and spoon with each other to heal its wounds from a battle. I am fine with healing myself, but your first priority as a king should be obtaining a proper healer for the group, Zeref finally pointed out. Do you realize that you just ruined my own plan to have you do this yourself and learn from this experience, Riaz finally pointed out. Do you really still not believe me about me being immortal and having over 400 years of experience in a much more hostile environment, he asked a little offended she didn't. Some of it yes, some of it no, but I do believe being a devil is a new experience entirely for you, she finally said as Akeno came in. Fine, I shall have to prove that point myself then, he said as he stood up from his position on the couch and proceeded to teleport away. Old church. Out of a portal stepped Zeref as he was heading to the church in order to save Asia by himself. I know she tried to manipulate me again, but I can't help feel excited about fighting someone strong. I guess one thing me and Natsu picked up from our father was that we loved to fight, he thought as he walked along a dirt path to the church. He walked along until his path was blocked by two people who felt like fallen angels. One was the one who injured him on his first day as a devil. The other one was a blonde like Asia, and ironically enough, they both reminded him of Mavis. I would prefer not to kill you, but with it being only twilight I am on a time schedule, he said as he called forth two death pillars and instantly killed both fallen angels. He walked on until he got to the church and he honestly must say, this was disappointing to say the least. I hope those others were the weak ones who was only meant to slow the enemy down, however it seems they were the strong ones. Zeref inwardly pouted as he destroyed the altar to reveal the hidden staircase. He walked down until he came across a ritual that just started from the looks of it. No, we just started it, we can't just end it now so that we could fight him, Rainer stated to herself. Zeref, please leave for your own safety, Asia yelled out with tears in her eyes. Interesting that you remembered my name after just one time saying it, but do not worry for I am immortal. Now, I will give you to the count of 3 before I kill you all, Zeref stated as he readied for a good spell he just thought would be befitting. We will not stop, we need this power more than anyone else, Rainer yelled out. Is that so? Fine then, 1, he said. Black eyes went red and the earth began to shake with power. Rainer threw a light spear to kill him, but found that it crushed from the force of the magic power. 2, Zeref put his hands close together with his left hand fingers going up and right hand fingers going down. A glowing ball of energy started to form in the middle of the hand sign that radiated power. Rainer threw another light spear and another then another, but nothing that she did had any effect on the power or light she was seeing. 3, he turned his hands so that they were inverse of what they were with the left down and right up. For the closing act, Zeref moved his hands and pressed them against each other and called out, Law. Just like that, there was a blinding light that engulfed everything for miles on end and had the entire orc look out their window to see the church had the biggest magic circle they had ever seen above it. When the light cleared and the light she could see again, Asia saw Zeref walk over to her as calmly as ever and look at her straight in the eyes. He crushed the chains that held her up with simple swipes of his hands and carried her over his shoulder as he teleported somewhere with her. Or Klubrum. Zeref stepped out of the magic circle and laid Asia down on a couch so that she could rest. He turned and decided that he had used enough of his power and decided to leave so that he could get some rest. Where are you going? I would like to discuss with you what that light was that we saw, Ria said with a serious tone of voice. It was a spell, nothing more and nothing less, and yes it was light that I used, he said while still not facing them. I got that it was a spell, but I have never seen anything like that. It could rival my brother, one of the Satan's, power, she said with narrowing eyes. If you are implying that I am as strong as your brother, then no I am not, Zeref said as he opened the door to leave and before closing it said, I'm stronger. That should give me some entertainment for a while he thought as he teleported to his house and decided to get some sleep until he was needed. The sleep was good and not having any dreams was good as well. He awoke to his own clock and not to some stupid harem girl's clock. He knew he actually had to get up today and dreaded it because he knew that he would one day have to tell them about who he really was. Not just some immortal wizard from another world, but he was from a world that knew him as the most evil person to have ever existed. He got up and got dressed in his school uniform and left the house as soon as he could. However, as soon as he got through the door, he was met with Arias and Asia who looked beyond nervous. She is going to be staying here isn't she? Zeref asked with a deadpan expression on his face. Yes, she is after we convince Issei's parents, Ria said with a grin and evil look in her eyes. This is payback for not telling you about my full power, isn't it? He asked as he changed into Issei. I have no idea what you are talking about, she said with a smug grin as she walked inside without even an invite. Fine, but make no mistake, anything said in that meeting is to be confidential and not to be out in the open, Issei said as his eyes turned crimson. The conversation was indeed an interesting one. Not only did Issei's parents not believe in him, but they still thought that he was a pervert. However, when Ria suggested that Asia learned how to be a good wife to him, he drew the line and froze the entire room. What is this? Ria's questioned as she was the only other person not affected by the spell. I cast a time-freezing spell on everyone in the room except for you, and I am going to tell you why. I am fine with you being rude and disrespectful with your manners, but the line I draw is the practice for a good wife to me. I had my shot at that and ended up with killing her with a kiss, and I refuse to even play betraying her memory like that, Zeref angrily yet calmly said as he got up from his seat. What are you doing? She asked in slight fear and guilt for what she did to upset him. I am going to use mind magic on them, their will is weak against it, so I should have done this from the start, but I didn't want to risk anything I might have. I will forgive this incursion into doing things without asking me first, but mainly because you don't know the full story yet, he said as he used his magic on Issei's parents. So does that mean you are going to tell us everything today at the clubhouse? Riaz asked with hope to know one of her servants better. Yes, but mainly because this was very far over a line that probably should have already been set, Zeref said as he was done with the two parents. What did you put into their mind? She asked with a lot of concern. Zeref's answer was to snap his fingers and let the work speak for itself as time unfroze, and he didn't turn back into Issei. What are we all doing in here? Issei's father asked as he looked around confused. Riaz was about to speak when Zeref motioned for her to remain quiet so they could see what he did. Zeref, shouldn't you and your sister Asia be getting to school? The father commented again and very much confused the others. Yes father, I just wanted you to meet with Riaz, she is my club's president you know, Zeref said as he got up and motioned for Asia and Riaz to follow. Oh yes, I almost forgot, sorry about that son, you know how forgetful I can get at times, he said as him and his wife got up to go do something besides sit around. Okay, what in the name of seven hells did you put into their heads? Riaz asked once they were outside and on their way to school. I will tell you today at the club meeting with everyone present, the black wizard said as he walked ahead of them a little and turned into Issei. Now we find Zeref sitting at his desk with a disinterested look on his face as Asia introduced herself to everyone in the class. He only paid attention when one of his former friends started yelling out, "Shorty's hot." And the other one saying, "Bust 34, waist 26, hips 35, and look at all that hair." Being in a new school in a strange town can be overwhelming, but luckily I am staying with Issei, Asia innocently said out loud. Every single male in the class all collectively said, "Bastard," as one of his former friends tried to put him in a full Nelson while the other was trying to choke him. He looked over just in time to actually dodge their incoming assault by ducking under them both and high kicking them both into the ceiling. He just sat back down and just decided to be quiet for the rest of the class and day. The day did progress fast, and now came the moment of truth where he had to tell everyone else that who he actually was. Now, who exactly are you Zeref, and how do you have so many powers that none of us had ever seen before? Riaz asked. With a sigh, Zeref began by saying, that is a long explanation, and yes that would be the short version of it as well, but know that every word you hear from my mouth is as true as the fact that we are devils. Please, do not interrupt me when my story begins, otherwise we will be here all day and night. Without waiting for an answer, he just began his tale at the beginning and told them everything. While also leaving out the parts about Mavis, for that is not what they need to know and he doesn't want them to know at this moment as well. At the end of the story, it was nightfall and the look on everyone's faces was what he expected. Riaz and Akeno had their eyes closed and heads down so that he couldn't see the tears they had in their eyes, or so they thought. Haneko had a stoic look on her face, but Zeref could tell that the eyes held sadness. Asia was openly weeping about what he had to go through and the fact that he went through it alone. Thibaut eyed him with narrowed eyes because most of what he heard was about the people he killed. I do realize that some of what I said is hard to take in, but know that it was in the past and I am not about to repeat it, he said with regret. We don't care that you killed a lot of people, but we do care that you didn't trust us enough to know the truth, Riaz stated while still not looking up from her desk. You want me to trust in people I just met, trust is not given freely, but trust is not why I told you. I could tell that you could be trusted long before I knew any of you, I told you because of the circumstances, because everything that happened was in the past on a world far from here. Now if you will excuse me, I would like to just have a good night's rest, Zeref told them as he left via teleport and went on home. The next morning we find Zeref walking to school and pretending like everything was normal. On the inside, he was a little worried because when Asia got home, she didn't even look at him or do anything besides go to her room. When he saw Kaneko and Kiba, they didn't seem to notice him and made him think that this world has rejected him too. After the school day, Zeref thought maybe just one final attempt to see how everyone really felt should be made, and so he went to the club. When he got there, all the lights were off and the curtains were drawn to make it look completely dark. As soon as he got a feel for the dark though, the lights came straight on and heard a very loud surprise. He blinked in confusion at what was just done and looked at the banner made and it said, "Welcome to your new home." He looked around and saw not only Riaz and her peerage, but Sona and her queen as well. We decided that maybe we should welcome you properly to your new world, since your old one basically kicked you out, Riaz said with an amused look at seeing herself actually getting another emotion from him. Sorry about not talking to you when I got home, but I was afraid that if I even looked at you I would spoil the surprise, Asia said with a bow. I could gather that from everything else, no offense, but why is Sona and her queen here as well, Zeref stated with a raised eyebrow. I know that I didn't receive you well when you came to my office, but I came here to make amends with you, Sona said as she and her queen bowed. Amends made, and thank you for accepting me and my many sins, he said with a bow of his own. We are devils, if we didn't accept anyone's sins, we wouldn't be very good at our jobs, Akeno said with a shrug of her shoulders. Right you are, now are we having a party here what? Riaz yelled as everyone started to eat, talk, and make merry with everyone. End of the here. So that's it for today's video guys, before you go just like the video and share it with your friends. Bye.